Hello, it's Bailey and welcome back to my channel. I am here today to do my August wrap up and I'm actually kind of excited to film this. Usually this isn't like my most exciting video to film, but I revamped my stats graphs for this month, so I hope you enjoy those. I did, redo them a little bit. Also, Betty is here with me and she's a little crabby today, so if this is a little choppy, that's why. I have been home the entire month of August and I'm also doing a little bit of a reading challenge. So I did a lot of reading this month. This is a little abnormal for me and I think my stats are also interesting because I was reading long books. But in total this month I read 12 books, which isn't like an absurd amount of books for me, but that was 3,904 pages, as well as being 68 hours of physical reading time, which is a lot for me. That being said, my reading speed was very low, being 57.4 pages an hour, and that is because I was reading a lot of like more dense things. And I listened to, I believe, 2 audiobooks, making my audiobook hours for the month 17. For the format I was reading in, I read 4 physical books, 3 ebooks, 3 audiobooks, and 2 ARCs. And I know I like this next new graph, but I owned 6 of these books. 2 of them were from Libro FM, which is an audiobook service. 2 were from my library, and again 2 were ARCs. For my genre breakdown, I decided to use one of the charts that like the bubble is bigger for the category that is bigger, and so I read 4 romances, 2 fantasy, 2 adventure, 1 mystery, 1 nonfiction, 1 historical, and 1 horror. I didn't read a lot of age ranges this month, and honestly I'm fine with that. If I read all adult, I honestly would prefer that, but I do get other things mixed in there, especially I always have children's right now with the Magic Tree House read along, and so I had 10 adult books and 2 children's. For when these books were published, I had 3 before 2010, I had 3 between 2010 and 2019, I had 5 recent backlists, being 2020 to 2022 and 2 2023 releases. And so for my ratings, I did have a pretty high average rating this month. So I DNF'd 1 book. I had 3 2 stars, 2 3 stars, 5 4 stars, and 1 5 star, making my average rating a 3.59, which, like I said, is decently high for me. So to get into what these books were, as always, I'm gonna go from my least favorite to my most favorite, starting with my DNF, which was The Silence of Girls by Pat Barker. I was attempting to read this for my in-person book club and it's just not my thing. I did attempt the audiobook and it just wasn't working for me, so I set it aside. It's hard for me anyways to kind of sneak away and attend that book club, so I wasn't too sad to set it down, but I would like to be returning to my in-person book club soon. Hopefully I will read next month's pick. Then for my 2 stars, starting with A Magic Tree House, Season of Sandstorms just did not really work for me in terms of Magic Tree House books. And then sadly I have Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This one I was just really bored through. I do think that you can tell this is his debut and that his characterization in some of the other books I've read by him is a little bit better than his start here. Then my final 2 star was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I spoke of this in a Jokes on Me episode that has already been posted, but the tropes in this just didn't really work for me, and it is like an asshole hero and he doesn't have much redemption, so I wasn't really rooting for them still, even in the end. Next, for my 3 stars, I have an ARC that I was very late on reading, but I did read Partners in Crime by Alicia Rai, and overall I thought it was fun. It is a like romantic suspense, and so I thought that the action-y type things going on in this book were fun. I didn't think the book was perfect, but it was kind of just one of those things that was fun while I was there, but it's probably going to leave my mind fairly fast. And then I also have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I think I'm up to date on my Emily Henrys now, having read that one, and this one was okay. I do think that she is tending to reuse tropes. Granted, they are tropes that I like, but this one just wasn't standout. Again, another book that I think was fun while I was reading it, but is not gonna like stay with me long term. I will continue to read Emily Henry stuff. I have a good time. continuing into my 4 stars, I have the other Magic Tree House book from August, being Carnival at Candlelight. And for Magic Tree House, a 4-star is very good for me, so this was definitely one that I enjoyed. Then I had another arc which I read like right on time. I think I finished it the week it was published, and that is Dark Corners by Megan Golden. This is actually a sequel to The Night Swim, but it had been a while since I'd read The Night Swim, and it has also been a while since I read a thriller, and so I think that I enjoyed this so much because I haven't been reading a lot of it. I do think that it could fall under being kind of a basic thriller, but I had a really good time reading it. This one is set at like an influencer convention, and the whole series, our main character is like a podcaster, and so there was some stuff that I think like you have to suspend your disbelief in terms of how involved our main character was in like the investigation. Again, I had a fun time while I was reading it, so I did give that one 4 stars. Then I have the Shelf This Book Club book from the month, which was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Danielle from Danielle Reads picked this month, and I think the best thing that this book has going for it was that it was short. I think in general I don't have enough of an interest in something like this, being like vampire fiction, to read a longer thing about it, but this being so short, I had a good time while I was there. I did find it interesting. It is very queer, and overall I thought the discussion that we had was also very good, so that was a win in terms of book club picks. Then I also have the nonfiction book club pick for the Magic Tree House read along, which was The Brilliant Abyss by Helen Scales, and I think I enjoyed this one the most. I did listen to this one on audiobook as well, and while I think my other participators in the read-along buddy read book club, what is that, book club read along I think that I enjoyed it the most, and everyone else got kind of bored towards the end, or just like kind of lost interest after a while. I actually landed this at like a 4.5 stars. I do think that it helped. I listened to it the week that I decided to learn how to crochet, so I was kind of just like doing, not a mindless task because I'm just learning, but you know, doing an activity and kind of listening to it in the background. So in parts that maybe I would have thought were boring, I was like engaged enough in something else that I didn't feel bored. But this is about the deep sea and kind of ecosystems in the deep sea and how humans are so bad for the earth. And then my final 4-star, which is like a very top tier 4-star, but I did have to admit that this didn't get a full 5-star. And this is also, I believe, the chunkiest book that I read this month, and a huge accomplishment because I finished a series, but that is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I did rate this the lowest out of any in the whole series, but this series is so top tier for me. I will for sure read this again someday, and I will for sure read anything else that Fonda Lee decides to like write next. I do feel like she has left space to do like more stuff in this world, because while it did like wrap up in the end, there's definitely, like I said in the vlog that I talked about this on, like there's definitely still characters that did survive that like I'm still interested in where they go from here, even though we did kind of get a full story arc. If you haven't read the series, I definitely recommend it. I also just think these are gorgeous because they're like where each book is just a different color and they look so nice together on a shelf, so would recommend this series. And then my favorite book of the month and my only 5-star was Wolfsong by TJ Klune, and shout out to Chris because he actually picked this for me off my TBR, and this has been on my TBR for a very long time, and so I'm glad that I finally had the push to go ahead and read this. For me, this gets a 5-star just purely based on like how strong the like found family aspect was, as well as I just love TJ Klune's writing and his like dialogue and just how he writes characters like relating to each other, and I did really enjoy our main character's voice in this one, so I'm excited to continue the series. When I did finish this, I did think that the series continued with the same characters, and while I do think it follows like the same group of characters, I do now know that the second book follows like a different couple, so our main characters are different, but I'm still just excited to be like back with the pack, the wolf pack. And so that's everything. That is everything I read in the month of August. Like I said, this was an amazing month for me. I do go back to work on September 11th, I believe. So I won't have a full month home. I'll have about a week home during September. Also, Squash That Series is happening right before I go back to work. Squash That Series is the weekend before I go back. So I'm already prepping myself to go back to work on like no sleep, but that's fine. It will be worth it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my new graphs, and thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.